Today we are going to talk about thumb releases. I've been telling you I was going to make this video for weeks now and it's finally here. So stick around to get my top 3 thumb releases for the female archer as well as a couple of other honorable mentions. So one thing about thumb releases is it's definitely a little bit of a transition if you're going from a wrist strap release. I started with a wrist strap, and I tend to be someone who wants to find something and just stick with it because I want to get perfect with it. My husband, on the other hand, he likes to change everything up, and so we both started off shooting with wrist straps, and then he started shooting with a thumb release, and he tried to convince me to do it. And it took a little bit of time because I was nervous to do something different, but it changed the game for me. And so I want to help especially women find some releases that will fit you. Because I found as I started looking for my own thumb release that it was difficult to find one that fit my hands. I have relatively small hands, and so I couldn't just order something off the internet and have it work based on reviews because most of the reviews were done by men. So today I plan on giving you my top 3 thumb releases that I found that work best for women with smaller hands. And with a couple of honorable mentions. But before we break into my very favorites, I wanted to show you that there are some differences in locking mechanisms. We have 3 thumb releases in our home. I have 2, my husband has 1. So when I decided to start, he had me try his Carter Wise choice. This is a really great release. I plan on doing a really in-depth review of Carter soon, but until I can do that, I think you can't really go wrong with a Carter release, but the Wise choice is a little large for my hands. So I was able to shoot it and kind of get a feel, but it was definitely harder. But one thing I wanted to show you with this Carter is the way that it locks onto your string. So it has this back button that you push in and it locks it on your string. So if you're a hunter and you want to hook your string on and just let your release hang, this is a great option. It's super simple. So you push it in, it locks on, and then when you're ready to release, it releases. This one, you just simply put it on your D-loop. I don't know if you can see that. And then you clip it in and it's ready to go. Ready to pull back, and then when you are ready to release, you release. Thumb releases are a little bit noisier than wrist releases, I feel like. So this is one type. My first release was this one, and it's part of the reason that I am doing this video. This is the TrueFire Synapse. I'm a designer by trade, and so aesthetic is something that is kind of a big deal to me, and so I just couldn't get over this one, and I really wanted to try it, but I couldn't find it in a store anywhere, and so I ended up ordering one. So this one is a little bit different. It's a finger sweep method, so you still have the button on the back and you press in on that button, and then you want to do that while this hinge is open, and then when you close it, it locks around your string. So a lot of people will sweep it either with their middle finger or their first finger, but then it locks around your string and then it's ready to fire. I will show you that. So you have to make sure it's open, you click the back, you put it on your string, and then I got to where I would just close it with my string. But you have to be careful because you could knock your knock off of your string. And then it's ready to go at full draw, and then you release. Okay, so that is another one. This one will also lock on your string if you just want to leave it hanging there while you're hunting around instead of trying to keep track of it. So it is one that will lock. This comes in the 3 finger, but it also has an extension that will make it into a 4-finger. So if you wanted a 4-finger version, you can take this off and this converts it. This did not come with any tools, and I really do like shooting this release. I felt like as soon as I started shooting thumb releases, my groupings got dramatically smaller, but it is a little big for my hand. So when it came, I mean, you can see that all of my fingers fit in there with just the 3-finger attachment. I personally prefer a 3-finger. Some people prefer that 4th extension, but with that 4th extension, I would end up really spread out on this release. It doesn't come in any other sizes. It's a very adjustable release. You have your tension and your travel that is easily adjusted just with Allen wrenches, and then your thumb bar will actually swivel to multiple angles. You can kind of see how mine is tilted towards the back. I like mine tilted towards the back, and it also has some adjustment in here to set it more forward or more back. So there is a lot of adjustment in this release. It's not the biggest release out there, so if you're a woman who wants to shoot something that's a little bit bigger, has a little bit bigger bone structure, then this might be a good option for you. This is a double sear, and we're gonna talk a little bit about sears too. So this didn't make my list. I keep this as my backup. I love it, but as far as talking about specific women's releases, this one's made for a man. So where do you begin when you decide to transition from a wrist to a thumb? Where do you start looking? When you Google it, you're gonna get a million different options. There's reviews, there's all sorts of things that you can look at, and that's kind of how I broke down what I wanted to try first. But it can be really, really overwhelming, and there's a lot of terminology, and there's a wide price difference. And so I want to break just a few of those things down a little bit for you so you understand what you're getting and for what price, why there's such a variance. When it comes to releases, you are gonna get what you pay for, honestly. And for me, as someone who, I buy something as an investment, I want something that I'm gonna get incredibly comfortable with, that it's second nature to me, and I just wanna use it until it dies, and I prefer that something doesn't die for a long time. Then a little bit bigger investment is gonna be acceptable for me. You're gonna look up, you're gonna see all these different things. One of the big things is sear, and I honestly didn't understand what the sear meant. You'll see single sear, you'll see double sear, and what does that even mean? So a single sear, it's like when you're talking about a gun trigger, the sear is where 2 mechanisms come together and one overlaps the other and doesn't let the other move until the first one moves. Okay, so it's the same concept with archery and releases. So a single sear is going to be one single mechanism which is typically going to be your trigger that doesn't allow your hook to move until you press that trigger, right? So once you press the trigger, it allows the hook to move, and your release will release your string. It can be super complicated and in-depth, so I'm just trying to break this down a little bit so it's simpler. The higher end releases are going to have double sears or multi-sears. What that does in a nutshell is with a single sear, you are going to have more variability with your shot. So if you're consistently shooting standing target shooting, it's probably not going to be as big of a deal for you if you're just shooting in regular perfect form all the time. However, where a double sear or multi-sear really comes into play is if you're hunting, if you're in a tree stand, if you're in variable conditions where you are hinging at your hip to shoot downhill or uphill, it changes the pressure on your string and the way that the weight is impacting that hook and your release, and even some of the torque on your string, and therefore that can affect how well that single sear releases consistently every time. So you may end up with some variability with a single sear that you won't get with a double. So double or multi-sears have multiple mechanisms inside of them that release sequentially, and therefore you get a solid, it takes away that variability. So you can get a consistent shot, a crisper shot in multi-sears repeatably over and over again that you may not experience as well with those single sears. That's a ton of information. If you want more, you can Google it and look it up. But I wanted you to kind of have an understanding so that when you walk in, you're like, well, why am I paying $50 for this one and $200 for this one? And what's the difference between a single and double sear? I just want you to be as informed as possible when you're looking at the components and what you're getting when you buy a release. We talked about the different hooking mechanisms with the Carter, with the True Fire, and this is my current release. It is a Stand Perfects. I'm going to talk about that and why I chose it in a minute, but I want to show you the different hooking mechanism that this one has. So this one is similar to the True Fire in that this hook releases, but it also has this string keeper that's spring loaded, and that only comes on this long neck model, but it will capture your string so you can just hook it on. This is the reason that I went with this specific Stand release, because you, similar to the others, you press this button and it locks this hook in, but then all I have to do is just slip it on and it's hooked. So that spring-loaded string keeper hooks it on, and then obviously to release you fire. Those are kind of the three types to look at. There are some others that I tried that are like the lobster claws. Just like your wrist release, there's a button that as you push it, it opens the lobster claws on the thumb release, and as you depress it, it closes them, and then as you pull back, then you release. There are also some that your thumb button is actually, as you pull it back, it's the mechanism that opens the string. You put it on, it closes, you pull back, and then you release. So there's lots of options to pay attention to, but I wanted you to have a good idea of what some of those are as you're looking at them. And into our local archery store, I said, give me anything that would fit a more small-handed archer. And they let me shoot a ton, probably 15 releases. And I gradually narrowed it down to these releases. This one, however, these two that I'm going to mention as honorable mentions, I have not specifically shot, but I do feel like they are a good choice to try if you're a woman because of their size and because of their reliability. So when it comes to especially a thumb release, I highly recommend that you go with one of the reputable brands. So True Ball, True Fire, B3, Scott, and Stan are probably the top. So having said that, I feel like the True Ball Fang Mini is a really great option. I've held it, it feels good in my hand. It's definitely got a smaller profile to fit into a smaller hand and to feel more comfortable. It is a full containment system, so that means that it is a release that will lock onto your string and you can let it hang there if you would like. It is a hook style. It seems similar in its hook design to the Stan, but not as high quality, I would say. It comes with 3 settings, so it's not as variable as the ones that I'm going to tell you about in a minute, the ones that made my top 3 list. You can either shoot it with no spring, which gives you the very lightest tension, so it's a really sensitive trigger. They have a medium spring and a heavy spring, and those are all included. So you get the medium and the heavy, or you can just shoot it without a spring. I haven't shot it, so I don't know, but I'm just saying because of the size, because of the brand, I feel like it would be a good option to try out. The Fang Mini is also going to be your least expensive option of the ones that I'm going to list here. You can get it for about $129 online, and that's just kind of a testament to you get what you pay for. You don't have as much adjustability. You do have adjustability with your trigger positioning, but as far as tension, you've only got basically those 3 tension options on this one. So at $129, that would be a definite one I would say to try. My other one is the True Ball Blade Mini. The only issue with this one, and the reason I haven't shot it, is it's hard to find. I'm not sure if True Ball's manufacturing them anymore, but if you see them, they are a multi-sear. They are a heavier release, which I tend to prefer a heavier release. I like to feel it in my hand. I like to feel that weight. And a lot of the top female archers have shot that with really great success. So I would check that out. So of my top 3, number 3 on my list is the Scott Pursuit. I anticipated that I would really, really like this release, and I did. Part of the reason I thought, though, initially that I would like it the most is because I struggle with change, and so I liked the thought of having a wrist strap, and this Scott Pursuit comes with a wrist strap that attaches to the release, and I thought that I would love that. I didn't, but I did really like the release. So had I gone with the Scott Pursuit, I would have taken that wrist strap off and just shot it with a lanyard type style. I'm not comfortable enough with the thumb release at this point to go without any sort of wrist lanyard. I don't want to shoot my release through my bow or through my face or any of that kind of craziness. So I highly recommend, if you're new especially, to find one that has some sort of lanyard. Get a lanyard to go around your wrist. Make one. I made my own on these that I'll show you in a minute. It is a multi-sear. It has a really crisp shot, and for its price point, I feel like the hand feel is really good. It has a comfortable little notch. I'm going to post a picture here of it, and I'll give you some of the details. It has a nice little notch for this last finger to fit in. It has a 3 and a 4 finger extension option that's included. It has the fully adjustable wrist strap, so you can tighten and loosen so that it will fit whatever size hand you have. It has the fully adjustable trigger, tension, and travel, which is really great at this price point. It's a relatively light release. It didn't feel heavy in my hand, which a lot of people like, so that's just a personal preference thing. And after shooting some of the other 2 that made the top of my list, there was a noticeable difference. So with the Scott Pursuit, I liked the feel in my hand. It was very ergonomically well suited for my hand size. I felt like the release was very smooth and crisp. It was relatively quiet as far as trigger releases go. So I feel like that's a great option for you to try if you are interested in a thumb release. Number 2 on my list is the Stan Shoot Off. I had a really, really hard time picking between the Stan Shoot Off and our number 1 choice. I love the feel of the Stan in my hand, and one amazing thing about Stan releases is that they come in multiple sizes. The Shoot Off only comes in, I believe, a medium and a large, so it's a little more limiting, but it does have just such a good feel to it. It has just a little notch here, finger just set, and it just felt so good in my hand. It also is this same type of locking mechanism, which is another reason that I ended up not going with it. And not that this is an issue. After I shot this for quite a while, it just becomes second nature and it's not a big deal. But I wanted something that was really, really simple. And just the fact that I have to push this and then close this either with my finger or with my string or whatever. I wasn't in love with that as much. The number one thumb release, which is the one that I ended up with, is this Stan Perfects. This is the medium size, but the thing that I fell in love with is this is so adjustable. It is so well made. Stan is known for their reliability, their longevity, their accuracy. They just are unparalleled right now in this field. And for me, it made sense because I don't want to be somebody who's changing it up all the time. So I wanted something that I just felt super comfortable with, that would last me a really long time and that fit well. So the amazing thing, the big thing with these Stan releases that is so awesome is they come with so many extras. So it comes with the 3-finger or the 4-finger attachment, and they're super easy to change out. Mine came set up with this smaller thumb barrel, but after shooting, I had been shooting this Carter, which is my husband's, that comes with the bigger barrel. I had found that I just really like how that big barrel seats in this back portion of my hand. So I preferred this bigger one. So the Stan actually comes with these 2 barrel sizes, which is awesome. And they come with all of these, I don't know if you can see them very well, all of these extenders. So you can make this as long as or as short as you would like it. You can adjust the forward and back travel. You can adjust the side to side. See how I have mine tilted a little bit to the back because I prefer it that way. You can turn this to the opposite side. It's ambidextrous for right or left hand. There's just so much adjustability with this release. I ended up going with the heavy metal version, which is actually made out of a heavier metal. I believe it's brass, because I like the feel of the weight in my hand, but it also comes in 2 other finishes that are not as heavy. As I showed you, it's a clip on. So once I push this button, I can just clip it onto my string, and I really liked that. And it's not gonna go anywhere until I press this. So I don't have to manually close the hook. It has the spring-loaded string keeper, but that only comes on the long neck version. So this comes in a long and a short neck version. And the cool thing about the short neck version is, once again, Stan comes out with just perfecting a release that is perfect for you, in that if you're like me, I've told you on other videos, I have this kind of in-between draw length, and the short neck will actually give you about an extra 1/4 of an inch. So it will lengthen your draw length a 1/4 of an inch. Having said that, on the short neck one, it does not have the spring-loaded string keeper, so it's just a hook. In terms of tension and travel, you can have it incredibly sensitive to extremely heavy. This part too, you can adjust so that it fits the exact angle you want on your hand. So I can drop this level down so that it's rotated down more if I'd like, or up more. And you can do the same thing with this extension so that it just fits, you make it what you want it to be. And I love that about this release. I just wanted to show you in my hand. It sits, it feels really good. The only thing that I don't love as much about this one is that it doesn't have that little notch that the shoot-off had, and I really, really liked that. But when I'm actually drawing my bow, this finger tends to fall pretty far back here anyway, so it ends up not being that big of a deal for me personally. You just hook it on your string. It is captured so it won't fall off, and then when you release, it's relatively quiet. Thumb releases in general can be a little noisy. The last thing I wanted to mention about the Stan Perfects, which is huge, and I feel like Stan is one of the only, if not the only, one that I know of that does this. They actually have a practice pin. So you can put this practice pin in, you engage, you push in your button, and then there's a hole that you put this practice pin in. And when it's in there, it will not allow this to release. So I could actually practice drawing my bow, getting the feel of the thumb release at full draw, actually engaging the thumb without it releasing, which is such a tremendous practice tool when you're trying to learn that back tension release style. So when it's in there, I can put this on my string, I could come to full draw, and then I can, you hear the click, but it doesn't actually release. And you can keep doing that to give you that practice. So if I'm gonna fully draw, you gotta lock it in first. I can draw, and then I can practice with the click, and then I can release it. So that is a really, really cool feature of this Stand Perfects. The Stand Perfects also has, for that practice pin, a place in your thumb release that you can screw it in. I don't keep mine in because I haven't been using it as frequently, and I kind of don't like that it gets in my way a little bit when I'm just out shooting. So I just keep it with all of my other little accessory stuff. The Stand Shoot Off also has that practice pin. You are really getting a release that you can completely customize to fit you exactly and to fit all of your preferences. Ultimately, for the price point, you're getting a lot with this release. Let's talk about another cool feature with the Stand is that you can go online to their website and print off size guides, show you what hand size is gonna fit you the best. So if you don't have the opportunity to go in and actually shoot one of these, or if you live in an area like most of us women do, where just about every bow shop only carries larges for the men, you can go onto their website, print that off, and know exactly how your finger or your hand is gonna fit on that release. I think that's a super cool bonus. This Stand Perfects with all of that extra stuff for right around $225. The Stand Shoot Off retails for right around $200. The True Fire Synapse is somewhere in the $200 to $180 range. So you're looking at being able to get a Scott Pursuit for about $149, and the Fang Mini is retailing about $129. So I hope I've given you a pretty good range of pricing options, hopefully something that can fit in your budget. Obviously, a lot of the wrist releases are a little less expensive, but when we're talking about all of the mechanisms that go into these type of, especially the double sear version releases, you've got a lot of components in this little hand release, and so it's gonna bring the cost up a little bit. But I do feel like if you go with one of those higher end models, you are looking at not having to replace it anytime soon. So those are all things to consider when you're making your decision. I also just made my own little wrist lanyards. Most of these that have the lanyard attachments will fit 95 paracord, so that's always an option. I hope that this has been a helpful video. I have seen tremendous growth in my shooting since I switched from a wrist release to a thumb release. Now, again, I'm not saying that a thumb release is the way to go. I think, as with all things in archery, it's very much personal preference. For me, I'm grateful that I switched over because I feel like it has made a difference in my accuracy, in my confidence, in my anchoring. I really struggled to anchor correctly and find a consistent anchor point with my wrist release. That was just an issue that I personally had, and I feel like since I've switched to a thumb release, I have a consistent anchor point every single shot, and it feels comfortable for me. It's also been so beneficial for my form in that I am getting better and better at consistently using that back tension pressure to release versus trigger finger. Another thing that a thumb release can be extremely good for is if you are someone struggling with trigger panic, a thumb release can help get you out of that habit. I think if you're in the market for a thumb release, that you have some really great options out there. I think if you are on a budget, that you can't go wrong with that Scott Pursuit. It's a really crisp, a really well-made release. It gives you some really good adjustability and is a great start. If you're someone who wants to make a large investment in something that you're going to use consistently forever and wants something that is extremely customizable, then I would highly recommend one of the stand releases. I hope this helps. If this video has been helpful for you, please like and subscribe. Come check us out on Our Epic Life on Instagram. Have a great day. I really am so grateful for the response that we have had, and I feel really humbled to kind of be in this position. And even though we're small right now, I feel really passionate about helping women to find a place in this sport and to feel confident and to be able to walk into a store and say, this is what I want and this is what I'm looking for, and to have that knowledge and ability, and to also have the ability to try things. I think that I have struggled a little bit with feeling my insecurities. I have had the feeling that I'm too old to start something like this. I have had the feeling that I am probably a little washed up and I probably don't have the knowledge base that a lot of archers have. But conversely to that, I have the passion and the determination to find out. And if I can do the research and if I can learn and if I can grow, I'm only going to get better as an archer, and I will be able to help you so that you don't have to take as hard of a path getting there as maybe I did. And if I can do that for you, then that's my number one goal. So I hope that you stick around. I hope that you'll check out our new upcoming videos. We're going to drop one every week, and we just appreciate all of the support. So thank you.